Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teachings Astrology for Healing, and I am here today talking with you more about eclipse season, really opening up the portal that is an eclipse, which is why it's so juicy and sometimes bringing wild card energy to us. I've already given you one video. If you haven't seen that, it's really a deep dive into the first eclipse that's happening on the 19th, 20th, just about a little less than a week from when I'm uploading this video. That goes through the houses, so the link is down below if you really want to see how that's impacting you on the houses. This is much more about what the eclipse portal is about, how to work with it, linking the bridge that happens between the two eclipses. So we have our first eclipse on the 19th, 20th of April, and then we have our lunar eclipse happening in Scorpio on May 5th. And there is so much energy opening, but also energy that we've already been working with that's getting kind of pulled up into our psyche and consciousness and into our bodies most likely. And I really just want to talk about, you know, why is it a portal? Why do we call this a portal? And I also want to tell you, for those that are interested, I am offering a live Zoom class really specifically with the energies of the May 5th eclipse. This class is going to be on May 6th. Depending where you are, it's at 2 p.m. Pacific time on May 6th. The info is all on my website. I'm really offering it as just kind of offering support and community around this eclipse season because it can be a lot of energy. Those spots are limited though, because I want to keep it so that we can have some conversation. And it's really just a pay what you can donation for this one. So that link is below. Look at it. You can send me an email if you have a question about it. And let's get into Eclipse Portal. Okay, so I really want to start with this energy that is so important to the eclipse season that we're in, and that is Vesta. Vesta is an asteroid. She is the goddess of the sacred hearth, and she is playing a major role in the first eclipse that's happening again on the 19th or 20th of April. And then she's actually playing another role in the second eclipse that is on May 5th. So we need to look at this Vesta energy. Who is she? She is the goddess of the sacred hearth. The sacred hearth that is stoking the fires. She firstly and foremostly is the fires that we stoke within ourselves, go straight to root chakra. That's where Vesta's energy is. She also is the goddess of sacred sexuality. So we work with her myth, which was the Vestal virgins, and they tended the hearth in the ancient city, and they were neither married to a man nor were they the property of their father. Very unique position for a woman at that time, and for a long time afterwards, still in certain parts of the world. So she has this direct connection with the goddess. And she represents in astrology and the way we work with the archetypes, this part of our creative sexuality that is actually just between us and the goddess. Okay, so this is an eclipse season in which that sacred creativity and which deeply healing energy, okay, especially if we bear wounds of sexual violence, Vesta is here offering a healing salve to that wound in our psyche, in our body, through the connection that we enter into with Earth. Because for the eclipse, she is at the very first degrees of Taurus, okay? So there is this deeply earth healing energy that is present, divine feminine energy, receptive healing, again, a connection between us and the divine, okay? It's not about a sexuality that's between us and a partner. That might play into how we access Vesta's energy, but she is between us and the divine, and it's this visceral presence that opens up in the body. And then she's also present when we're making art, when we're just in a creative dance. Dancing could be a great practice with this eclipse. And so Vesta's here. And this is so important because this is an eclipse. And the reason that we call it a portal is because it's like it literally opens a portal. okay? It opens a portal so that we, every eclipse season is an opportunity for us to have kind of a rapid shift of evolution. Sometimes this is shit going on that changes our life radically, that we didn't see coming, that we maybe wouldn't have asked for, okay? I'm gonna let go of like the good and bad, because when we're talking about evolution, those are categories that we apply as humans that have attachments and have desires, and they're deep attachments and they're deep emotional attachments. And so something may feel very negative. We also can look back at those experiences for those that have gone through your Saturn return and you've had some time, right? Like a lot of times these experiences happen during Saturn return that change our path. And they're not always what we would have asked for or pleasant, but then we look back and we realize that we're only here because those circumstances shifted. Eclipses can bring about those types of changes, especially if they're impacting your chart, your life, very directly, meaning that you have something sitting right around 29 degrees of Aries or 0 degrees of Taurus, or you have something sitting right around 15 degrees of Scorpio. And then within aspects, okay? If you have tight points being hit during the eclipse portal, most likely you're going to feel this, okay? Sometimes it's not an external life circumstance. Sometimes it's entirely internal. We may have been, and this is very important for the first eclipse on the 19th, 20th, because where it's happening at this final degree of Aries, we may have been carrying a burden around with us. And, we may have an internal shift when we suddenly just realize it was never our burden. We've, someone put it on us. Society put it on us. Intergenerational trauma put it on us. And suddenly there can be this like, whoosh, and it just cuts it. And we have an insight. And sometimes that requires the external circumstance. Sometimes it's entirely within us. Sometimes it's an explosion within a relationship. Relationships are where so much gets worked out, especially the most intimate relationships. And whatever the circumstance, because it's going to be different for all of us, because we all have different charts and we're in different places with our charts, something occurs. And the idea is that, especially if we have our practices that help us come into presence and help us commune with the goddess, someone like Vesta, because she's here in this eclipse, then a timeline shift happens. And this is deep soul work. This is, the idea of eclipse, the nodes are present. That's what makes an eclipse an eclipse. So the transiting nodes are present. And when the nodes are present, this is when we bring in the language of destiny and soul. And this is about so much more than our egos, okay? A lot of times that very difficult situation happens because our ego is resisting the change that underneath we're ready for. Okay. And I think there's like, I've seen lots of comments, both on my channel, but looking at others, and it's like, okay, I've been going through change for years. Why are we just talking about more change? So firstly, because we're always changing and we're always evolving. That's why we're here. Okay. So, but there's certain archetypes that are more, open, we could say, to change, because that's part of their archetypal purpose, and certain archetypes that resist the change a little bit. And so we're always changing. But then when we have the astrology at this time is looking at a cycle when some major changes are potentially happening, okay? And so just recalling that on the 19th, 20th of April, depending where you are, we have this eclipse that's happening at the very final breaths of Aries, like just before the 0 degree point of Taurus. So much so that within a few hours after the eclipse, both the moon and the sun will have moved into Taurus. So we also really want to look at this as the bridge, okay? Because this eclipse is literally like a bridge. Those final breaths of Aries, that is so important. This is why we are talking about change, because this is the final degree of a sign that is all about our instincts, our primordial self. It's a new cycle of that self. We're here to really, the change is not so much what's happening out there. It's that we become aware that we're ready to take on a new role in our life, whatever that means for us. And this is not just most likely, definitely something that we've been working with, energies we've been working with, ideas and visions, thoughts, healing journeys that we've been on for most likely quite a while. But this eclipse, especially the May 5th eclipse, part of this kind of portal bridge, is really hearkening back to energies that we've been working with for the past year that are now coming up again. And now we go through this eclipse portal, but this very interestingly, you know, Pluto is a big player in this eclipse. Pluto's right at 0 degrees Aquarius. We know this is a huge era shifting, but remember that Pluto entering into Aquarius, this is like a 2-year transition of entering into this new embodiment individually and collectively for our soul's purpose and drive in this life. And so right after, you know, with the second eclipse, Pluto's going retrograde, and then Pluto's going retrograde and dips back into Capricorn. So all of this signaling that we're in process. It is a journey. There may be sudden shifts, right? Whether that's a new job, or you sell your home, or your relationship crumbles, however these things happen, or you fall and you break your wrist, you know, spirit works in all kinds of ways. We're in a process and we're getting insights, but the thing is that the portal energy, it's a major shift. And then this mind takes some time to reintegrate and to work with it. And this is what we're entering. It's a lot of energy. It's very exciting energy. There also, I think eclipse season is like helped by a going with the flow approach, because there's wild card energy. More importantly, the May 5th eclipse, right? So we enter, open it with the 19th, 20th, and the May 5th comes, and then we kind of continue on through eclipse season closing. But firstly, this is happening at 15 degrees, right around 15 degrees of Scorpio, okay, which is directly bringing us back to the November 8th eclipse of 2022, which was an eclipse at 16 degrees of Taurus. Okay, so we're like exactly 1 degree within the eclipse of November 8th. So that was a very particular eclipse for some folks. Lots of stuff went on. Some of the themes, especially the insights that were coming up then, because we're in the Scorpio Taurus axis, okay, with this eclipse, they're probably going to come up again. And now it's going deeper, it's transforming more. Also with this eclipse is that Uranus on the May 5th eclipse is quite close to the eclipse. Uranus is sitting at 18 degrees of Taurus. This is, okay, first of all, Uranus is wild card energy. Eclipses can be wild card energy. We've got Uranus in a pretty close conjunction, pretty close conversation happening. So wild card energy is present, and that 18 degree point of Taurus is super important because that's where Uranus was conjuncting the North Node in the summer, in July and August. It was huge energy, lots of changes happening. And so Uranus then went retrograde. Now it's going back in its direct path. There's going to be an eclipse when Uranus is right at that point where it went before and then went retrograde, and then it's going to burst through and cover new ground. Okay, so a lot of energy happening with this eclipse season, pulling up themes that we worked with in the past year, letting major shifts happen deep in the psyche. Okay, sometimes we might not even totally be consciously aware of what's going on, but then in the fallout, we start seeing things shift internally and externally, sometimes both. And then we continue on, okay? And then we're going to have Pluto, you know, going back direct, and then it's going to come back over the 0 degree point of Aquarius, which, let me give you the exact date. January 2024, right? That's going to reactivate these energies again. That's gonna, it's gonna go forward, and then it's gonna come back, and then it's gonna go forward. So so these energies are getting reactivated as we move through cycles down the line. All of that to say, you want to remember this is a process, and yet we also want to be open to just being present and co-creating with whatever emerges for us. And this is what the workshop, the live Zoom class I'm giving, is really focused on: how we can be aware and mindful and excited and creative with these energies, because that is kind of the name of the game when we're coming into this co-creative presence with all the natural cycles that we're part of. And final words, remember Vesta. Vesta is this beautiful divine energy, and she is here during the whole eclipse. She's present with it. I'll talk a little bit about her in some of my posts, which are on Instagram and the community tab here, if you haven't seen them. And I don't want to keep this going too long, so I'm going to stop there. But major eclipse blessings to all of you, and be well.